are lifter failures in the 7.3 liter Godzilla V8 engines in your F250 Super Duty something that you guys should be worried about? Well, as a heavy duty diesel mechanic, I'm gonna take a deeper dive into this topic and tell you guys what I think. Well, here we are with a 2023 F250 Super Duty. These front ends, there's something about them that just look a little off. Even on the upper trim level trucks, they still look okay, but I prefer the older generation, if you want to call it, older look. I don't know, maybe they'll grow on me. I mentioned last time I had this truck in the shop, I really do like the squared off look. Kind of reminds me of like the 80s Super Duties with that really square look. So I like this truck, let's get into what we're talking about today under the hood. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Like you heard, we have the 7.3 liter Godzilla engine in the house. Always seems like a highly requested engine from you guys, but last time I had this truck in the shop, I was pretty complimentary towards it. I quite liked it. Simple pushrod V8 should get the job done. I did mention at the time potential lifter issues that they were starting to see. However, I kind of played it off like it wasn't that big of a deal because the pickup truck engines were not seeing that many lifter failures. However, that problem has grown some legs and people seem to keep talking about it. So here we are, and I want to take a really deep dive and see what is going on with these lifter failures and give you guys my opinion as a heavy duty diesel mechanic. So first of all, what the hell is a lifter? Well, this engine, 7.3 liters of Screaming Eagle displacement, is a good old school pushrod engine. And a lifter here with my beautifully drawn diagram rides along the camshaft. Now, as the camshaft rotates, the lobe right here is going to lift the lifter up, and it's going to lift the pushrod up. And that lift is going to be transferred across the rocker arm and pushed down on either your intake valve or your exhaust valve. And that is the basic premise of a lifter right here. Now, as you can imagine, a lifter is very critical for an internal combustion engine. And when a lifter fails, instead of gently riding over that cam lobe as the camshaft is spinning around, the lifter more or less smashes into that cam lobe, and we can picture, obviously, an engine rotating at 3,000 RPM. That camshaft is rotating very quickly, and if there's any play or any damage to that lifter, instead of, again, gently rolling over that cam lobe, it's gonna be more of a smashing event, and that is why we hear that ticking noise, that lifter tick. And once that lifter has started to fail, eventually what is going to happen is we're going to get misfires because either the lifter itself or the cam lobe is going to get so ground down that you are not able to get that proper lift. And once that happens, it's pretty much game over. There is going to be a lot of metal throughout the engine, and it's just, again, not a really pleasant situation. It seems like a lot of the major concerns about this engine and its lifter failures started with a video by a channel called Ford Bros in February of 2023. In that video, he describes pulling a lifter out of the engine. You can see that the lifter it's delaminated, there's spalling, there's delamination in the cam lobe as well. And he kind of goes over that. He describes that this failure was at like 30,000 miles and that this isn't the first one that he's pulled out of a 7.3 liter Godzilla engine. And it seems like this video scared a lot of people. If you go on the forums, I have scoured the forums, RV forums, pickup truck forums, you name it, I've been on it. And all of the concern seems to stem with that single video. Now, since that original video was released, there have been many more videos, seemingly people working for Ford, describing very similar incidences. Once the hardening on the lifter roller or the cam lobe fails, it's pretty much game over because then you'll have metal going throughout the engine. You'll get that nasty ticking noise. I'll give Ford credit where credit is due. Instead of just changing the lifter and the camshaft like we're seeing with other manufacturers, they are replacing the whole engine, which I like to see because once metal has been spread throughout the engine, it really is kind of a ticking time bomb, and it is just factual that the life of the engine has probably been dramatically decreased once a lifter failure like this has happened. So just keep that in mind. Without a doubt, the main issue is that the lifter roller hardening surface is flaking off. Same with the cam lobe surface, potentially flaking off as well. It's hardening. So the big question is, what the heck is causing that to happen? I don't personally work on these engines on a daily basis, nor am I an engineer or work for Ford, but I think I can give you a good informed conclusion based upon what I've seen, obviously from the internet, but I've also gone out to both my local Ford dealerships, talked to the service writers, talked to the service managers, talked to the service techs, their HD techs, asked them as a heavy duty diesel mechanic what the hell is going on in their opinion, talking to guys with boots on the ground, working on these engines on a daily basis. There are 2 Ford dealerships locally to me. The first one I went in and explained that I basically just work right up the road as a diesel mechanic, and I was looking to inquire information about the 7.3, more or less kind of saying like, just give it to me real here. What the hell is going on? And are you guys seeing any major lifter issues and so forth? He said that they have seen 1 lifter failure in the past year, and that was on a box truck, a local delivery box truck in town here, and they replaced the engine on it. Now, the second dealership I went to, I spoke with the service manager, probably a good 10-15 minutes about the issue, and he mentioned that they had 2 lifter failures in the past year. Once again, both on the commercial side of things, both box trucks, which is interesting. He also mentioned that he believed it was an issue with the hardening of the material, and it was on the first batch of 7.3 liter engines, which again, I thought was interesting that how he mentioned that as the first batch. And he believes with the newer engines, they're just not going to see these issues. Lastly, he talked about how both of those failures had very high idle time, which again is just very interesting. Some good information there. So that is straight from the belly of the beast, and I just don't see them lying to me. They know where I work. Wasn't trying to buy anything. It's a small town, and I wasn't, accusing Ford of anything. I was just simply trying to inquire about the engines and what they were seeing as a fellow mechanic. All 3 of the lifter failures in town at these dealerships were coming from commercial use box trucks, and I think that is very critical. I spoke to that when I first reviewed this engine, that it seemed like a lot of the failures are coming from like RV chassis as well as straight up commercial chassis use for these 7.3 liters, and that the pickup trucks, for whatever reason, were just not having lifter failures. Now, chatting with my source who gets me these trucks, he mentioned that they have a couple of 7.3 liter gas box trucks in their fleet as well, and that they are very detuned, and that you really can't rev them above like 4,000 RPM even if you wanted, because they're so detuned. So this is a 7.3 box truck, foot to the floor, and just watch where it shifts. Here's a 7.3 pickup truck with my foot to the floor. And big difference. To the floor. Here we go. Oh! Holy! And I thought that was really interesting. So I did a little bit of digging, and he is correct. There are actually 3 different power variants for the 7.3 liter Godzilla engine. So first of all, you have the very well-known pickup truck variant coming with 430 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque. However, when you order this engine in a commercial chassis, it comes with a detuned 350 horsepower as well as 468 pound-feet of torque. And then thirdly, there is what Ford calls the economy tune, which comes with 300 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque. So there is a very big difference in power between your, what Ford calls the ultra premium tuning package, which is your pickup truck engine, and the economy tune. I think even the biggest Ford haters, if you will, can agree that it seems like for whatever reason, the vast majority of lifter failures are on the commercial chassis engines. And looking back at the Ford Bros channel, the original post he made, that was on a box truck. And other posts he's made since then all seem to be with a commercial-based 7.3. I think there is a little bit of a smoking gun there in terms of these commercial use or commercially tuned 7.3 engines. And I could not dig up any information as to what the heck is different about them. I read somewhere briefly that there could be some different cam lift profiles, but again, I don't know for certain. If you guys have any insight on that, Let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. I couldn't dig anything up, and everyone I talked to at Ford really didn't have the answers either. Dropping 130 horsepower from this engine here to a economy tuned 7.3, there must be something that is, you know, at least different or partially different about that engine than the pickup truck variants. Now, if I was going to personally speculate as to what I think is going on, I think either there is a material problem, something wrong with the metallurgy, the hardening, or there is a lubrication issue. And I tend to lean very favorably towards the lubrication side of things. Firstly, I don't see them using different parts just because the engines are tuned differently. So you would think if it was a quality control issue, which it very well could be, but I think you would see the issues spread across all of the 7.3s, not just the commercial use engines. But again, it could be quality control as well, because Ford is not making these lifters in-house. They are outsourced, probably made overseas somewhere. So they are trusting the supplier with their own quality control. So there is possibility that there could be a quality control issue, but I very much tend to lead towards lubrication issues, and I'll explain what I mean. The main reason why I speculate this is a lubrication issue comes down to the pump Ford uses in these engines. Ford uses a variable pressure pump or variable displacement pump, and Ford has told us themselves at idle these engines are making anywhere from like 6 to 7 psi of oil pressure, which does not seem like a lot. And the main reason why Ford uses these pumps is, first and foremost, it is to extend the oil change interval as well as save some fuel economy. And key word there, economy. Now, the reason why I emphasized economy is because of the third tune option in these engines, the economy tune, pushing out a whopping 300 horsepower. Ford came out saying the main purpose for the economy tune was for fleet owners or just owners who are looking to increase their bottom line, decrease their fixed cost, and not worried about their performance. They just need a truck that's gonna run and drive. But if Ford is willing to cut 130 horsepower out of the economy engine, they're probably willing to run that variable displacement, variable pressure oil pump at the absolute bare minimum to try and get as much fuel economy as they can. That's why I suspect there's probably a lubrication issue on these commercial chassis engines. Again, I'm not privy to how Ford has detuned these engines, but it does seem a little bit suspicious to me. Interestingly enough, in 2024, Ford has discontinued the economy tune in the 7.3 engines. So I think the moral of the story is that there is a little bit of an overreaction when it comes to these potential lifter failures. There is just a little bit more context needed as to, you know, what exactly is happening with those engines. And I can say without a doubt, it does seem like the issue is very much focused on the commercial side or the commercial chassis side of these 7.3s. I would imagine it has something to do with what Ford has done to detune the engine. That would be my guess, but it seems like the pickup truck variants are not seeing the lifter failures, at least nothing that would concern me. Even my truck rental place, they have a bunch of these 7.3s. They are a rental truck. Construction companies rent these things all summer, all winter. They get abused. And you would think if abuse of a commercial truck or a box truck was causing the problems, we would also see them in trucks like this. So to conclude, guys, if you own a pickup truck with a 7.3, or better yet, if I owned a 7.3 pickup truck, I would not necessarily be too concerned. If I own, let's say, an F250 box truck with a economy engine in it, would I be a little concerned? Yes, at that point, I would probably be concerned. Thankfully, I feel like most of my viewers are usually pickup truck owners. So good news for you guys, you're not necessarily gonna need to worry about lifter failures at this point. Obviously, if other news comes out, if more data comes out that in fact the pickup trucks are starting to see lifter issues, I'll be the first one to tell you guys. As always, if you have anything to add to the conversation, if you think I've missed something, if you have some critical information you wanna share, put that down in the comments. Love hearing what you guys say. I get a lot of information out of there. You guys are smarter than you think. Anyways, as always, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And obviously, if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe because we'd love to have you on board. Anyways, enough of me. We'll see you on the next frickin' video.